Long ago, in a quaint little village nestled in the shadows of the Carlithian forest, life was simple and untouched by horror. The villagers lived in peace, mostly free, but on occasion a dark magic would creep, until a sibling rivalry between the royal family changed everything. Moria, the sister to the village's ruler, Raul the emperor, who took the seat of Emperor Two Swords after his death, harbored deep jealousy of her brother's power. He, in turn, feared her cunning ways. One fateful night, a fierce confrontation erupted, and in a moment of anger, they both cast spells upon each other. Moria's hex twisted Raul into a rattling skeleton, his skin and flesh disappearing in a puff of dark smoke. Horrified, he saw his bony reflection in a nearby puddle of water, while at the same moment, Moria herself was transformed into an untamed, lazy wayward witch, twisted nails and a tangled mind. They had both cursed one another in the heat of their fight, each with devastating consequences. In her rage, Moria grabbed Rolaris's skeletal head and hurled it into a nearby pumpkin field, determined to leave him powerless. But Raul exerted his last ounce of effort, cast a spell to fumble Moria's intelligence. Clouding her mind, she was no longer able to think clearly, and in her confused state, she accidentally turned her family, those she had depended on for support, into animals. Wolves howled where her neighbors once stood, and crows cawed where her kids had sung. And Daniel Thorne, her other son, caught the end of the spell and was turned into a black cat. Her brother Rupert was turned into a chimp. Rupert the chimp was always at the right place at the wrong time. Desperate for control, Moria tried to cast a final spell, one that would kill the villagers and cement her rule over the land. But in her foggy confusion, she bungled the spell, and instead, some of the most respected members of the community, the village's elders and leaders, were transformed into headless scarecrows and skeletons, with straw-filled bodies, and they staggered around, neither living nor dead, confused and powerless. Realizing her mistake, a great standoff ensued between Raul and Moria. Moria fumbled her wand, and Raul quickly grabbed it and threw it among the forest, blending with all the fallen limbs. She ran to the brush and fallen limbs, searching for the wand. Meanwhile, Raul, despite being headless, raced into the pumpkin field, frantically searching for his head to restore his power before it was too late. But no matter how hard he looked, his skull remained lost and blended in with all the other white pumpkins in the field. In desperation, he grabbed one of the white pumpkins and placed it atop his neck. Seeing this, the other headless villagers scrambled to fields near them, each grabbing orange pumpkins to replace their missing heads. Raul with a single whisper cast one final spell, binding the pumpkins to their new forms, and from then on, the headless skeletons wandered the village, their faces replaced by carved gourds as the pumpkins fused to their bodies, glowing an eerie orange light emitting from their eyes, nose, and mouths. But the curse had left them both broken. Raul, though still technically the emperor, was no longer smart or capable of ruling effectively. His knowledge was intermittent, overlaid with good and bad mental health days. His memories, everything had been lost when his head was thrown away, and Moria, despite holding all the magic of her past in her mind, could no longer concentrate long enough to cast anything of real power without her trusty wand. She stumbled through spells, casting small ones here and there with an older, weaker wand, but nothing strong enough to regain control. Their fate became a bitter stalemate. Raul still searched for his true head, knowing that if it or its seeds were ever to be found, he could once again be a wise and powerful ruler. Moria, meanwhile, fumbled through life, knowing that if she could ever regain her focus and find her wand, she could undo Rolaris's spells and take the throne for herself in his weakened state, and thus, the race to the throne was on. The lands suffered without his ruling, and the villagers, caught in this strange battle of wills, feared the prophecy whispered among them that one day, a single pumpkin would grow in the field, carrying the wisdom of ages. Or a tree in the woods would raise the wand up in one of its branches. If Raul found this pumpkin, he would restore his true self and reclaim his rule. If Moria ever recovered her wits or wand, she would seize control of the village and its surrounding lands. Terrified of being caught in the battle between the siblings, The villagers feared being turned into unnatural beings if either one was to rule again. The villagers devised a plan to keep the prophecy from ever coming true. Every year on Hallows' Eve, they marched into the pumpkin fields, hunting down every last pumpkin. It became a yearly tradition on Hallows' Eve, the day before Hallows' Day, for them to carve them into lanterns, placing candles inside, to mock the idea of wisdom residing in a pumpkin head, a way to keep the power out of the hands of both Raularis and Moria, ensuring the village would remain free. And they would gather all the fallen limbs and branches and have bonfires at night to keep the wand from resurfacing or maybe destroying it by chance in the fire. And so, the legend lived on. A tale of an emperor with a pumpkin head and a witch with a disability and lost wand, both waiting for the day when one of them would gain the upper hand. But as the villagers continued to carve pumpkins and burn piles of brush each year, they believed they could keep their dark rulers at bay, living in the hope that neither Raularis nor Moria would ever regain their full power. For now, the village remained peaceful, but everyone knew the stakes. If ever the prophecy came true, and the right pumpkin grew in the field with the wisdom its seeds would be a true threat, or if the wand would ever resurface, control of the village would be taken once again and the battle would ensue and the bystanders would be in jeopardy. No one wanted to bow to either the pumpkin-headed emperor nor the wayward witch, and this was known forevermore as the Ashen Prophecy.